welcome back to part 2 of the Siege Dreadnought Nurgle transformation video. Um, Finally got them all painted up and everything. The last couple of weeks have been a little busy for me. I've just had a lot going on, preparing for the holidays and all of the usual stuff. I've been vigorously working on getting some things worked out studio-wise to hopefully streamline the process of filming content. Things got a little messy. I was like painting several things at once. Um, and so a lot of things got misplaced and moved around, and because I'm working in a very particular area, that happens. So, anyways, I'd like to introduce you to my buddy Bender. That is a Warlord Titan, and my next video is going to be about that guy. So you won't want to miss that. So the Saturnine Siege Dreadnought, he has been fully painted, and he's ready. I did some basing. The big thing about this particular project is I could work on it for another 12 hours, probably at least another 12 hours. I could probably nitpick everything. I know some people are like, dude, it's just a mini, but there's things that I see. I think he turned out great for what I wanted. I wasn't trying to make him look like an award-winning piece. If I did, I would have went with a much cleaner looking theme. I used several different layers of rust and a bunch of other techniques, which you'll hear about in the video. But the painting went well. I was really, really happy with the outcome. Some things learned, and I think going forward, there's going to be a couple things that I do differently. Again, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Remember, please hit the like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that stuff. It makes me feel really good when I go to click on my YouTube and I see new notifications, and especially new comments and stuff, new people that have discovered my channel and they're like, yo, that's really cool. Or, like there was the most recent one was another fellow Nurgle player that, really liked what I did with the Dreadnought. So it's stuff like that that really gets me going and makes me happy and wants me to keep pushing to make better content. So thank you guys again for watching and hanging out with me. Bender over here, he's not quite done being built yet. He's heavy. So soon enough, he will be built. I'm probably going to leave him in half. So this way, anytime I need to travel with him, he's not one giant piece. But, again, it's all a work in progress, similar to my channel. Thank you guys. You guys are the ones that are going to keep me going here. It is fun for me, but it's even more fun when I get the interaction from the community and hear what you guys want to, say. So again, thanks a lot, and hopefully you enjoy the Saturnine Siege Dreadnought painting video. Till next time, guys. Later. Here we are, just trying to give you a little bit of a heads up as to how I do my textures when it comes to Nurgle. And really what I do is I just mix those two up, and I just start putting it everywhere. You got to remember that it is a Nurgle transformation, and I will do a couple different layers of this stuff. Really just want to put it everywhere. I'll probably be going through a lot of this stuff fairly quick, but just to give you the basic idea, put that everywhere. This is kind of just kind of what he looks like. I keep going, I think here. Maybe this is where I start painting. Yep. So again, I'm just looking for more spots of interest that I think this corrosion that he has would be. And, unfortunately, some of it's out of frame, as you can see there. But I put it everywhere, all over his weapon. Make sure you get it in especially all of the cracks. He's Nurgle, so he's supposed to look disgusting. So that is one of the best techniques that I use when trying to make things look weathered and gross. And you can literally just build it up several times. I always do it after priming. And here we, obviously are starting on the painting. I chose to use a sponge to try something a little different, primarily because I thought that sponge painting this particular guy, because he's so big, would also give me a little bit more detail and more textures with the paint, as opposed to if I was putting it on with a brush. I could always do some stippling and stuff. But yeah, these brushes really work well. You just have to push it in there a lot, kind of push it into those little spaces and cracks. Obviously, you don't want it to go into certain places, but it fills up pretty quick. So obviously, you're going to go right over all that grime and all the texturing that you did, and that just it always works out so good. I know that I was going to be using more of like a lighter blue tone to go over some of those greens, as you see here. And really just several different tones of blues and greens. Anything that looks kind of murky and grimy, that gives them kind of that, it just stands out so much more. And what I ended up doing, I just ended up using pretty sure that was the same sponge. That's just a makeup sponge. You can get them anywhere. You can get them at the dollar store. Dollar General sells them. Lots of other people have made videos about where to get them, and lots of other people have used them for like sponge chop and stuff. But I like using them for bigger models. You can really cover a lot more space. And again, what I was looking for was just kind of more texture, a lot more texture. So it really did the job. The one thing to keep in mind when painting a larger mini like this is you are going to have several different layers. And this was probably my favorite layer here. That green stands out so nice. That green is actually lime green from Atom Acrylic Colors. And I just felt that one contrasted really, really, really well. So again, you just keep going over some of the same spots, but try to hit different spots. So you're not losing the spots that you just went over. And as you can see there, that's a really great example. His little, that little armor piece that like kind of goes over the crotch area there. There's just several layers of stuff. All that, the typhus corrosion and the the corrosion texture from the AK Interactive stuff. And that green just pops so good. Obviously, we don't leave him this color as much as I really like that green. It's a little too bright. But yeah, this is like the third or fourth layer, because I went over the first layer twice, I think, with the darkest green. There was obviously a lot of things that I didn't show, but here is where it starts getting really good. Dirty Down Rust is a great product. I absolutely swear by it. It definitely works better on lighter colors. So if you are using it, use it on a lighter color. But I wanted him to be kind of dark and more of a greasy look because, again, it's Nurgle. And really what you have to do with this stuff is you kind of slop it on the way that I'm doing it here. And you use it right out of the pot. And you just slop it on. And once you feel like you have enough where you want it, you actually use some water, and it kind of breaks down chemically and adds the different variations of rust. And you'll get to see it when it's done. One of the cool things is it does kind of, certain areas stayed really like almost wet looking. So it was like wet rust. And then other areas dried really well. So it looked like nasty dried rust. And I think both effects for Nurgle or for any sort of tanks or any sort of machinery, it just works so well. I was trying to put it into as many little cracks and crevices as I could too, especially anywhere where moisture would collect. He's Nurgle, so he should be pretty moist. Anywhere where moisture would collect, I was putting little dabs of it. I actually ended up putting some into the warped holes, like the burn holes there on his big shoulder pads. And here, I think I'm still just doing like the regular application. Now I start wetting it down and giving it the little shot of water. And I was just using regular tap water. Yeah. So there you get a good look at the back. Just remember, give it some time to dry before you start messing around with it. This was not all shot, obviously, in one day. I say obviously, but you don't know that. But, I kind of let things cure for a little bit. So I think I had put it down, let it dry probably for an hour. And, you could just see how grimy and nasty that stuff comes out. And then this was using another rust. As I said, I used several different kinds. This is the dry rust, I want to say, from the war paint. Maybe it was Vallejo. I'm almost positive it was the dry rust, though. And I was just lightly dry brushing on. Just adding more and more detail. Every layer of rust you get, it just looks better and better. And even if it's a little wet, the stuff dries really matte. So if you get a little wet, that's usually fine. You don't want to, you really just want to kind of hit more highlights and leave a lot of that first layer of rust underneath. That's what kind of gives it the really cool textures. were so many other things that I could do to this guy, and I'm, getting to look over. There was so much I had to cut out too, just for time's sake, but I'm still really, really pleased with how this guy came out. Once I skip ahead and you kind of see more and more, you see kind of just how far I made it before I was doing certain things. Still trying to work on my camera angles. Obviously, that one gets a little wonky, but you know, um, I'm really just trying to show the beginning process here, and then I kind of show the ending process. But this one was so much fun. I think here I was using like a lead belcher. Yep, kind of going over. One thing to do and to remember and keep in mind is when you're going over um, the rust and stuff, in order to get it realistic, you kind of want to hit it with a little bit of metallic, usually some sort of like steel. I like lead belcher. That's kind of my go-to. Um, Obviously, here you can see that I did the tentacles. I got his gun. Um, I did the trim, and a lot of that stuff I had recorded, but some of it was just, in my opinion, unnecessary to show. Trim takes a long time, and it's already, kind of a daunting task to try to paint and film at the same time. But yeah, I was just having so much fun, just dabbing paint on everything. That Power Fist came from a really cool 3D printed model, this like Chaos Knight that a buddy of mine printed for me a while back. Here I am going back in with the AK Interactive, and now I'm being a little bit more methodical with it, finding areas that I think it really needs to sit in between the chain and underneath the chain. Again, you want to going to do several layers of this stuff, and to make it look greasy and grimy. He's supposed to be, you know, um, uh, basically a demon of pestilence at this point. Like a pestilence engine. It's all sorts of plagues and just gross stuff. So I just imagine, if there's a dude in there, he has completely, become immersed into this metal carcass essentially. And this, I'm thinning down white and trying to put it in the recesses to try to get more of a glow effect. I haven't really done a lot of glow effects, so this is something I was trying. I've seen a lot of other videos where people do that, and then going back into the white and just kind of adding some tips of white to the bones and some of those other protrusions. Probably like, yeah, it's like my second coat probably there. I think I was hitting the skulls and the bone bits and all that happy horse shit. Yeah, he's looking nice and gooey. Oh, I love painting Nurgle. I used obviously a couple different pinks and purples. For basing, I used some cork, and then I used some. I don't remember what Citadel basing material it was, but I used a Citadel basing material. I glopped that on there, and then I was just taking some other sand bits and rock bits and putting those down, and then I glue it, uh, usually with some sort of like super glue, just to make sure that everything stays down and doesn't fall off. And then that particular, what was I using there? I don't know. I think I was just using, actually I was just using like a brown paint at that point. And this was the layer of dry brushing that I was doing. I had started to dry brush, and then I realized I didn't really like kind of show what color I was using. So I went back to show you. There's one of my snacks. You can see my meat stick there. Yeah, when I'm painting, I'm not eating really healthy. I'm just eating like meat sticks and potato chips and stuff. So, anyways, yeah, the base is always fun. I really enjoy doing bases. Obviously, I kind of custom did the base to fit him. I didn't want him just standing static on a little circle with one or two little bits. So I used some cork, and I kind of fashioned his feet in a particular way where one was a little higher than the rest, or the other, and then just kept double checking to make sure that where he was standing was correct, and I just kept adding more and more layers. This is a pretty standard basing. I would say there's nothing really super special, but again, it wasn't. It's more just a fun piece that I wanted to do, not really like a showpiece. Now you really start to see all of the fun little bits that I've done. I'm probably on my fourth or fifth layer of different paints. You could see some of the highlights and stuff that I've done. Now he has all of the um, oozing vomit was one of um, the effect paints that I used. And of course it's Nurgle, so of course you want to use that. You can see the bone up top actually has some of the dirty down gore. And I did some of the glow effects. And, at this point, he's basically done. I'm just kind of going over and hitting a few more things. Again, larger guys like this, I just have so much fun doing. I think I used Agrax Earthshade a few times to kind of darken up the first couple layers of paint, and then went back in over top of the Agrax Earthshade to kind of give it a little bit more, just more and more layers of built up paint. But of course, you want to make sure that you're using it kind of thin. This layer, I think, was probably the thickest layer of paint that I used, just because I was kind of doing more like a stippling with the brush. It's actually one of the brushes I use for dry brushing, but I was just using it for stippling. I used the fly face for him. I want to say that was from Terminators. It worked out so well. It was perfect. I was contemplating giving him some fly wings because I had some extra fly wings, but I just declined on that one. So we are rounding it out here, and I was just really just kind of dry brushing over some stuff and just trying to get some more highlights. A couple little more spots to pop. I added some real thin streaks to kind of show some like battle damage and stuff. One of my favorite parts on this guy was his gun, just making it look all nasty and just gross, and the little power coils that were down there were not connected, and I realized that. And then, after I looked them over, I kind of reconnected them. I actually think power coils being disconnected were kind of cool, but at the same time, you kind of want to try to keep them together. I think the vomit color on his tentacles is probably one of my favorite things about this guy. It just makes him look so grimy. So anyways, that's pretty much him, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. Again, like, subscribe, share, comment. Here he is.